The relationship between revenue and net profits is the most important ratio on the income statement. However, when you see that the trend is changing over time, a more detailed analysis of changes is required. You need to evaluate the trend in the cost of goods sold as well as the trend in general expenses. The cost of goods sold is distinct and separate from general expenses. These so-called costs are directly attributed to levels of sales volume, whereas expenses occur regardless of increases or decreases in sales. Costs include merchandise purchased. The most significant cost is merchandise. For example, a retail organization purchases merchandise at the wholesale, marks it up, and sells it at retail. The cost of merchandise as reported on the income statement has to be adjusted to allow for changes in inventory levels. So if a company allows its inventory level to rise by $100,000 during the year, the true cost of goods sold has to be adjusted. To accurately arrive at the cost of merchandise, here is the formula. Beginning balance of inventory plus merchandise purchased minus ending balance of inventory, and this is the cost of merchandise. And here is an example. A company began the year with $1,855,000 in inventory valued at cost. During the year, $7,400,300 in merchandise is purchased. At the end of the year, the inventory is valued at $1,940,000. What is the cost of merchandise? Let's see this example on a spreadsheet. Here is the data: beginning balance of inventory, merchandise purchased during the year, and ending balance of inventory. And the formula is beginning balance of inventory plus merchandise purchased minus the ending balance of inventory. And here is the result. The net cost of merchandise is lower than purchases because inventory is higher at the end of the year. If inventory levels are lower at year end than at the beginning of the year, the cost of merchandise will be higher than the year's purchases. Another important cost factor is direct labor. Direct means the payroll cost required to generate product. For example, employees working on an assembly line create the product, so the cost of their labor is part of direct labor. In comparison, payroll for the accounting department and mailroom is properly classified as a general expense. Direct expenses do not directly rise or fall with changes in sales volume. Another important direct cost involves moving goods from place to place. In any organization that brings product into a site and then moves it out to another site, transportation costs are incurred, and the higher the sales volume, the higher the transportation costs. For example, a company may import unassembled products from overseas, assemble it in its own plant, and then ship it to the stores. The cost of bringing products in and then shipping them out are direct costs. Depending on the kind of organization, numerous other direct costs are going to be incurred. In a manufacturing environment, direct costs can be very elaborate and may involve detailed breakdowns of plant costs. Under the rules of cost accounting, direct cost analysis and calculation include the assignment of millions of dollars to different product lines and affects how those products are priced. In manufacturing, inventory is subdivided into categories: raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods. The merchandise and transportation costs may also be assigned to numerous product lines. In companies dealing with a less elaborate series of products, the cost accounting is much easier to calculate. In either case, you need to keep a clear distinction between direct costs and general expenses. The accurate division of these areas of the income statement is required to properly analyze and spot trends. As direct costs are studied over a period of time, trends evolve. If the product mix changes, then the relationship between direct costs and revenues changes as well. However, if the mix of products remains unchanged, then in theory the direct cost relationship should remain steady as well. Any changes should be analyzed and explained. For example, direct labor and transportation costs might rise without a corresponding increase in pricing. That reduces profits as direct costs rise as a percentage of revenue. Companies normally pass on price increases to customers by marking up prices to absorb higher direct costs. The difference between the revenue and direct cost is called gross profit. Here is the formula: revenue minus direct cost equals gross profit. In tracking gross profit, it is easier to spot changes in the trend when it is based on a percentage rather than on dollar values. For this, you need to calculate the gross margin. The gross margin is calculated using this formula. Gross profit divided by the revenue gives gross margin. Let's see an example. Here is a 5-year summary of revenue and costs. Find the gross profit and gross margin and analyze the trend. Let's look at this example on a spreadsheet. Here is the data: revenues and direct costs for 5 consecutive years. Gross profit is the revenue minus direct costs. And when we drag the formula to the end, we will find for the next 4 years. Gross margin is gross profit divided by the revenue. The same way for the next 4 years. As you can see here, the trend shows that gross margin is eroding each year. This affects profits drastically. Let's see it. If the 5th year's gross margin had been identical to the first year, 51.3%, gross profits would have been different. Let's see. Here we can multiply the revenue from the 5th year by the gross margin from the first year instead of this one, and we will see that is almost $7 million. This would be the gross profit if we had the gross margin from the first year. This made a substantial difference in the profitability of the company, as you can see here. And here we can compare this gross profit and this one in 2 different cases. It's almost 1 million. Based on the volume, the change of 7.2% in gross margin cost the company nearly 1 million in gross profit. Assuming that general expense levels remained fairly steady throughout the 5-year period, this is a significant reduction in potential profits. This is why the gross margin has to be monitored each year, and when negative trends are spotted, why their causes need to be examined. The change could be a matter of revising product markup for increased costs or needing to improve internal controls due to lower efficiency with higher sales volume.